A lofted shape is something that transforms from one starting sketch into another or several different other shapes as it goes and travels between the individual sketches. So to create a loft, what we need is a series of sketches that we're going to be creating a feature between. So the most basic would be just two different planes. So I'm going to go ahead and hide a few of these other planes. So I don't want to see this plane right here, and I don't really want to see that plane right there either right now. I just want to have this XY plane. So that's where I'm going to start with. And then above that, I need to create another plane so I can have another sketch. So I'm going to draw something on. So I'll just go ahead and do that right from the beginning. So come over here to references, come over here to plane. I'm going to choose that first plane right here. And all I want to do is do an offset, right? So I'm going to say like something like 5 inches, and it's going to go ahead and create a new plane directly above the old plane, right? So here it is, plane number 1. You can rename it if you'd like. And now what I want to do is I want to create some individual sketch geometry. So come down here, select that plane right there. I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to say I want to activate a sketch. So let's just do something super basic. Let's just create a center point rectangle. So I'm going to start at the center. I'm going to drag something out here. I'm going to type in something like 3 inches here, hit tab, hit 3 inches there, and I've got a perfect square. And notice it's not fully defined yet because it doesn't know the rotation. So if you don't know what's wrong, grab one of the nodes and just kind of pull it around. So notice how big it is, but notice I can kind of like rotate it around. So a quick trick here is just to select a line and say, hey, let's make that one horizontal. And then everything shows up fully defined as black. Okay, deactivate the sketch. Let's look at it in 3D. So you can see here I've got my little rectangle, or sorry, it's a square now. Square at the bottom, and then I want to draw something at the top. All right. And in this case, let's go ahead and select that. Again, right click and say activate 2D sketch. This time, let's try something like a circle. So center point circle, drag it out, go ahead and add a dimension, click on the circle, here it is. Let's say 5 inches. All right. And then deactivate the sketch. All right. So now what I have is 2 sketches. I've got a square down here, I've got a circle directly above it, and we want to create a loft feature between the two. Now, we can get a lot more crazy with lofts. We can start adding a whole bunch of different profiles. We can add guide curves, and we can do center point or center line lofts. There's a whole bunch of different things we can do with lofts, and I don't have the ability to go through every single thing here, but I just want to show you the basics of creating a loft and what's involved. All right, so if you go over here to loft, it's going to ask me for my different cross sections, right? So my very first one's going to be down here, and then it's going to go up to this one right here. And notice it gives you a preview of what's going to happen. It's going to take that point, bring it up here, and everything looks pretty good. Now notice I also have this thing called guides. So if I say, hey, I'd like to have some different types of guides, I have a different options. I have these global, I have local, I have centerline, a couple different things I could use for this. And if I define like a line where it's going, I could come back and use some of these things. But right now we don't have any of those. Those have to be separate sketches. So make sure you don't have that on right now. Just turn that to none and click OK. All right, so there's our basic loft. Pretty straightforward, pretty easy to use. Okay. Now, if you wanted to do something funky and you wanted to create or modify this shape a little bit and just didn't say, hey, I just didn't want these lines to come straight up, a lot of times you can go back into that loft, you can edit, and then you can do things. And you can choose one of these things, and you can say, "Hey, I like to, I can change the twists, for instance. I can specify a tangency. I can type in a magnitude of tangency, and notice what happens there is now all of a sudden you start kind of pushing this line straight first before it starts turning and morphing into the other shape." And you can keep going back into this edit feature, and you can say, hey, I like to start doing this with some of these other things as well. All right, I'm gonna type in like 1, and some of these might make it fail, right? I mean, take a look at this one here. So now I'm pushing it back, and you start getting some more organic shapes, which is just nice. And a lot of times when you're dealing with lofted features, you got to go back and play with it a bunch of times to make sure you're getting to the shape that you're looking for. Maybe you don't want to have these sharp edges on here. So you can come back and we can fill them later, or you can go back to that original sketch and add some radiuses in the corners so you don't ever have these sharp lines. But a bunch of different things you can do with lofts. Again, it's a really probably one of the more powerful things in Libre design as far as the ability to create these shapes. And it allows you to use multiple profiles, multiple guidelines. You can get literally as complicated as you want to be. I've seen some of these lofts that have, 30 different profiles and 20 different guide curves, and it takes a long time to set all that up, right, to get to that final shape. But that might be the ultimate shape, and they do that a lot for things like free-flowing shapes like a car body or a wing section or something like that, that you're going to be creating these very complex shapes that are going to take a lot of time to set up. But once you have that shape, that's kind of like the final thing that you need. Anyways, that's the basics for lofts, and in the next video we're going to be diving a little bit more into some of the different guide curves and things like that.